You might think that a VHS cassette is a pretty ordinary thing. I mean, in 2019, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, it's not like we're using these every day. But when you compare a VHS cassette to a Beta cassette...
Hold on a minute, you just made this video. What sort of stunt are you trying to pull?
I'm not pulling any sort of stunt. I just wanted to point out a very clever thing about VHS cassettes when you compare them to Beta cassettes.
No, that's exactly the video you just made. Here. The VHS cassette was more clever than Beta. You just made this video. What sort of fools do you take your audience for?
Now, I don't think of any of them as fools. Except for you, Kevin. If anything, I'm the fool. Aren't you going to ask me why I'm the fool?
Why are you the fool?
Because it was the thing I'm about to talk about that inspired the whole video comparing Beta and VHS cassettes. And yet somehow I managed to completely forget to put it in the video. Isn't that dumb?
Okay, that was pretty dumb.
Well, I'm glad we agree. So, let's not waste any more time and get right to it. Have you ever noticed that some things are bigger than other things? Like laserdiscs, they're bigger than DVDs. Or like watermelons, those are bigger than grapes. Or like the pockets in clothing traditionally made for men when compared to those made for women. Ladies, I feel you. I know you don't have a lot of options out there. Finding clothing with pockets you can actually use can be hard or even impossible. Men don't have to deal with that shit. I can buy pretty much any pair of pants, and my giant-ass phone and wallet and keys will all fit in just one of the pockets just fine. There's no reason you shouldn't have that luxury too, and frankly I think we, and I mean everybody, should take a stand against this fashion industry nonsense. I can't believe I just called pockets a luxury. That's how nonsense this situation is. I think it's time to embrace a little function over form. What do you say? I may not have a lot of power to change this, and my audience is 95% male according to YouTube, but to those who will listen, you deserve pocket equality. I know next to nothing about what options are out there, but when you find a good one, grab it. And make sure you tell everyone about it. Demand for pockets needs to be sustained, it needs to grow, and if you can't find something in your style with decent pockets, don't buy it, let it sit on the shelf in protest. And if I may make a suggestion to the gatekeepers and tastemakers of the fashion world, early 90s colors seem to be all the rage right now. I'm sure you can tell that my fashion sense is unparalleled, so you can trust me here. How about a dark blue skirt with some hot pink pockets for those totally rad accents, huh? Or maybe go with some pants in the classic teal with purple pocket highlights like a total boss. I can see it now, so 90s, so useful, so countercultural even. You'll sell millions, and your buyers will have the freedom to keep things on their person like they've never had before. A freedom which frankly they deserve. So VHS cassettes are a fair bit larger than Beta cassettes. And this means that while they'll fit just fine in the pocket, if you will, of a VHS VCR, they're simply too big to fit inside the Beta machine. But what about the other way around? If a Beta cassette is smaller, then it stands to reason it will fit in here. But it won't. That's weird. Is it just too thick or something? No. Well, it's certainly not too wide, or even too long. What gives? It's the most cleverest little bit of cleverness that gives. Ever notice something about the lid of a VHS cassette? Well, aside from how excellent of a fidgeting device it is. Do you see it? How about now? There's a little notch right in the center of the lid, and if you look at the underside of the tape, you'll find an unbroken line carving a little path through these various holes, which are themselves quite clever. You can learn all about how clever these holes are in the video I just made, and you can find a card up there, or a link in the description serves as backup. See, starting way back at the dawn of VHS, the engineers over at JVC were all like, hey, what a marvelous invention we have made. We shall outdo those Sony people with our amazingly better recording time and our much less restrictive licensing policies. But then, some other engineer had just had a thought. This person went to the other engineers and said, my fellow engineers, there is a problem. One of Sony's terribly inferior cassettes will fit in our machine. If people try to force the lid down, the misaligned cassette could cause some serious damage. So they gathered around and thought of a solution. And this is it. See this little spike here in the VCR? JVC was really fond of spikes. That little guy sticks up just enough that when you try to put in a Beta cassette, the solid lid prevents you from inserting the tape. You can wiggle it around and get beyond the lid, but if you manage to get that far, you'll still be foiled by the body of the cassette. Once the spike is up against here, no amount of wiggling will let you get past it. And all it takes for the VHS cassette to get around this was a small notch in the lid and a line down to the center. Isn't that just the neatest thing? I love how the edges of the lid are tapered so that the cassette will self-align. You've probably never noticed any sort of resistance from that little spike in this notch in the lid. But no VHS VCR will let you try and put in a Beta cassette. Even into the days of front loaders, that spike is still there and it will foil your plans. Which is a good thing too, as it would be pretty easy to get a Beta tape stuck in there if you could get it all the way in. Of course, there's absolutely nothing good that can come from forcing a Beta tape into a VHS machine. In theory, you could record onto it if it were blank, but if there were Beta signals on there already, your VHS machine will not be able to play them. You'll maybe get something from the audio, kinda, but you aren't going to get a picture. Well, that's it. That's this video. Yep. So, don't forget, we all deserve pockets, and also don't forget that no matter how smug those Beta backers are, you had a product that was just as good and had way more clever tricks up its sleeve. And also, it's 2019, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Give it up already. That's going to be a problem starting in 2025, so I would be ashamed if I forgot to mention that while there were never any VCRs that could record onto both Beta and VHS tapes, you could find video cassette rewinders that worked with both. For the youngins in the audience, these things are there just to rewind your tape for you. Yep, it is a one-trick pony. But people bought these because using the rewind function of your VCR would put some wear on the components. And while the degree to which that wear mattered is highly debatable, it is certainly not debatable that a video cassette rewinder will make that wear go down to 0. It's also just more convenient, especially if you've got a stack of Blockbuster rentals you want to watch one after the other. I've seen some of these that have a little lever to switch between Beta and VHS. The little cogs, or splines as was pointed out to me a zillion times, would simply move a little bit with the lever, allowing the rewinder to accommodate both cassette formats. So now you know. Who actually needed a rewinder that could handle both Beta and VHS? Presumably almost nobody. And I think it's a fair bet that the universal rewinders were more expensive than a standalone rewinder anyway. So the fact that I've seen more than one of them in thrift stores is surprising. The misaligned cassette could cause some serious damage. I'm holding this really weirdly, because I forgot to grab it again.